Do not make these catastrophic mistakes as a new business when it comes to trying to sell your products or services. Now, these pitfalls that I'm going to be talking to you guys about here will give you a much higher chance of success if you're able to avoid them. So be sure you stay tuned. Now, one mistake that new business owners make is ignoring the competition. I like to look at it as sort of a Netflix versus Blockbuster. Okay, so those of you guys who remember how Netflix and Blockbuster kind of started off, Blockbuster was literally the game changer, right? With a behemoth. Everybody used to go to Blockbuster. You used to go to your local Blockbuster and rent out DVDs and different movies, whatever the case may be. Now, one issue that Blockbuster had was that they used to always charge late fees. So you would rent out these movies, you would get maybe a day, 2 days, whatever the case may be, but you would get charged these crazy late fees if you didn't bring the CDs back on time. And that's really how Blockbuster was making the bulk of their money. And now Netflix, what they decided to do was, now they started off by sending out CDs, doing it online, but they didn't charge any sort of exorbitant late fees like Blockbuster. So they took a technique that I love to do and that I used to do back in the day. So what they did was they looked at the complaints of their competitors, Blockbuster in this case, and they decided to try to reinvent what their customers were complaining about. So a lot of Blockbuster's customers would complain about the late fees. So Netflix decided, hey, we're not going to charge late fees like that. This is the same way, you know, when I started selling on Amazon, that was one of the first businesses that I actually started doing was I would actually order product from overseas and then have it shipped all the way here to the US. And what I would do is I would look at competitors on Amazon. I would look at their reviews. This was back in the 2014, 2015 time. And I would look at competitors' reviews and see what the negative reviews were, what people would say that were wrong about the product. And then what I would do is I would take all that information and then I would use it and talk with my suppliers overseas and see if we could make improvements to the products they currently had. And that way I could make sure that I would fix all those issues that customers were complaining about. That way, once I shipped the product and actually sold it on Amazon, I would now be getting better reviews. I would have a better product because I solved all these issues that past customers were complaining to my competitors about. So the idea is making innovation to what your competitors are currently doing. You just doing that is a game changer, guys. So this is huge. You never want to ignore your competitors. I don't want to say that you want to necessarily be always watching competitors. You want to focus on your own product, but you also want to listen to what customers have to say about your competitors in terms of what's the negatives they're saying, what's the positives, and seeing if you can implement that into your own product. Now, another mistake that beginning business owners make is not understanding their customers. When you don't understand your customer, it's hard for you to be able to have a clear value proposition. It's hard for you to be able to say in one sentence or two sentences what you're offering your customers. When you actually have a clear value proposition, it brings clarity to all your marketing efforts. And now I've noticed that when people have issues with this usually happens because you don't have a clear target market. Early on for me, I always got a little nervous to actually target a specific person. I used to say, you know, I'm selling this product and this product is great for everybody. And it sounds great because you say, oh, you know, I can sell this thing to anybody who wants it. But you realize that when you try to sell to everybody, you end up selling to nobody. So what you want to do is you want to actually hone in on a specific person, right? You want to hone in on a specific type of target market. For example, if you're selling bikes, you could say, you know, I sell bikes to anybody, or you could say, you know, this bike is specifically for beginners, or this bike that I created is specifically for people who are in marathons, right? Or who bike in marathons, I don't know. You know what I'm saying, right? Or people who are in triathlons, whatever. You specifically gear your bike to a specific person, or these bikes are specifically for mountain bikers, people who like to bike on mountains, right? The more specific you are, the more it's gonna be like you're speaking out directly to that person. So someone who is interested in running or in biking during marathons, when they see your bike, they're gonna say, hey, this is exactly for me, right? This bike is made for me. As opposed to when you create a bike that's for everybody, it attracts nobody. So that's how you wanna look at it. Now, this is gonna help, especially whenever you're trying to handle any sort of objections, because you're gonna know what to say to your customer because you are dealing with one specific type of customer. Whereas whenever you make something for anybody, you're not really gonna know where the objections that they have are coming from. And when I say objections, I'm saying things like, for example, when people tell you, when you offer a product to somebody and they give you a reason for why they can't purchase, even though it's a perfect fit for them. This is especially going to be more prevalent with higher ticket products. If you're selling something that's $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, you're going to see this going to happen more and more. So you want to make sure that you have a clear value proposition, you have a clear target market. You got to really understand your customer and know who you're targeting. And that's going to help you be able to make sure that you're going to have more success as you're trying to sell your product or your service. Another mistake new business owners make is failing to plan. Okay, poor financial management is a big one, right? You fail to make sure that you have a plan whenever you start the business. A lot of times it might just be that you have this general idea, right? It's like, oh, I want to start a blank type of business. I want to start a car cleaning business, but you don't really actually go through the actual motions of figuring out how everything's going to work out. For example, you don't take the time to figure out how much you're going to need, right? How much money are you going to need for the equipment, for all these different aspects that might come into it? How are you going to get customers? How are you going to market? I've realized that the financial management is typically the biggest one. Once you start running the business, you don't track your expenses, right? You don't have a budget. That leads to financial problems and can lead to eventually business failure when you've gotten to a point where maybe you've maxed out your credit cards or you've burnt out all the cash that you have. So it's always important to have a solid understanding of your financial situation to be able to make those informed decisions, right? And again, you're having a plan when it comes to marketing. I'll shoot a whole nother video on how to go about making or deciding your marketing. I'll link to that video down below, as well as I'll throw up a card here so you can check it out. But you want to have some sort of a marketing plan, some sort of a plan that you're following to help you be able to get customers, right? Another thing is poor pricing model. Typically underpricing your products. Guys, I've been a huge victim of this so many times, right? I'm underselling myself. You're selling your product way cheaper than it really should be, and that makes it difficult for you to be able to even turn a profit. It makes it difficult for the numbers to make sense. It's crazy nowadays how I realize how many $1,000 programs that I've purchased. I've even seen out there's masterminds, $100,000 masterminds. Imagine spending a good salary, right? A software engineer's salary just to be part of a mastermind. There's people out there who literally pay $100,000 just to meet up with a group of people 4 times a year. Imagine that, right? So that kind of gives you the perspective of that. It's all about the value that you offer, understanding the value that you're bringing to people and how to price that accordingly. Now, another one that I got to touch on is the whole business credit. You guys have all seen those ads out there, right? Get business credit and you can use this 100K credit line to launch your business. If there's people out there they get business credit, they have no business acumen, right? They haven't really started a business before, but then they get access to business credit that's guaranteed by them personally. So what happens is they end up spending all that business credit. They get 100K, they blow the 100K, and now not only are you $100,000 in debt, but your business has ended up failing, and now you're back to square one. But you now have saddled with 100K in debt that you have to start making payments on. So that's why I always recommend that. One, I like to start my businesses off with cash, right? I like to use my own cash to at least get the business started and then leverage credit to grow the business even faster. At least if it's your first business, I recommend you do that because it's more than likely that you're going to run into roadblocks. You're going to run into, you're going to make mistakes. You want to limit your failure as much as possible. And by you just using your own cash, it's easy for you to recover because it's just about you making more money versus whenever you actually take on debt, now you have to pay back somebody else's money and make more money to be able to continue going forward, right? So that's kind of how I look at it. So most of the times it doesn't end well when it comes to you leveraging credit cards and things like that, especially when it's your first attempt to run a business. Now, these are just a few of the mistakes that I've seen some business owners make, especially those who are new in the game when they're trying to sell their products or their service. So just by you being aware of these, you can increase your chances and be able to grow your business and get even more success. Okay, so I appreciate you guys watching. Be sure that you subscribe and hit me down in the comments. Let me know what other information you'd like to learn more about. And I appreciate y'all watching. I will see you at the next one. Peace.